Blitz is defined as a sudden, savage attack. It is indeed all this. The effect is sure. The premise is simple. It's a basic, primal confrontation, man to man. No excuses are offered, none accepted.
Welcome to the latest edition of Longhorn Blitz with horns247.com.
Looks like a radio station.
Now, here are your hosts, lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers,
pure athlete, yeah.
I transcend race, hombre.
Matt Butler.
I don't talk man. I back it up.
And we are chock full of that, man.
Damn right.
And Jeff Howe.
It's still real to me, damn it.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
If you're gonna blitz, come strong, but don't come at all.
Coming strong with another edition of Longhorn Blitz with Horns 24/7 on a busy week in and around the ATX. We got the NIT, we got Dell match play, we got NCAA swimming and diving, Texas baseball this weekend, spring football, pro timing day. Rod, man, it's just that time of the year where it's like drinking out of a fire hose.
Yeah, man, there's a lot going on in the ATX and Tiger Woods in town.
Yes.
Time playing golf. Yeah, it's big. I know, and it's a lot of other stuff too happening in Austin. I believe it's in Texas Relays
coming up. Relays is this weekend.
Texas Relays is this weekend. Urban Music.
The rodeo
Festival.
going on still.
Rodeo still going on. Yeah, man, it's crazy. That's why all the traffic is happening. So
yes,
even more than usual.
Yeah. Even more people who don't know how to drive are out on the roadways around the ATX.
No doubt. And they'll love Austin and they'll want to move to Austin.
Yeah.
So we'll continue the vicious cycle of traffic. There you go.
Yeah.
That's the good news.
It's even getting more cluttered down in my neck of the woods down in Hays County.
That's right.
We're going to stick with football matters on the 40 acres on this show because that's what we do. Let me bring in the rest of the team. He is the master of the soundboard, the drop machine extraordinaire, Matt Butler. Matt, how are things?
Doing well, man. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Everything's going well. Just a little bit later in the week that you guys are getting the show. Just sometimes life gets in the way, so we apologize for that. But we'll bring you a good show nonetheless. And hey, maybe it's a good thing we had to bump it back because now we can talk about pro day in addition to spring ball and other things.
Timed out better.
Yeah,
we could have just played it off as, oh yeah, we were going to do it right after pro day. Big news yesterday.
Yeah, actually, why did you reveal that? Yeah, actually,
he's too honest. I like his transparency.
Sorry,
no,
my bad.
He's good.
Just that beforehand.
You don't want to be just a guy just full of it on the radio.
You told you we don't do show meetings before the show. We just dive into it. So
our show meeting is a text message usually, or hey, let's make sure we cover this, and that's pretty much about it.
There you go.
So, a man who he doesn't need show meetings because it's all in his brain because he's a Renaissance man. He's the Renaissance man here on Longhorn Blitz and on 104.9 The Horn, where you hear him each and every weekday on the Rodcast from 1 to 3. Lifetime Longhorn 2002 UT All-American 2002 semifinalist for the Jim Thorpe Award, 4th round draft choice of the New York Giants. Back in 2003, spent his NFL career with the Giants, Lions, Bears, Bucks, Broncos, and a year with the Hamilton Tiger Cats of the CFL.
Cats, baby.
When he was done with football, got himself back to Austin, Texas, in the 40 acres, where he earned his degree. When he gets that T-ring in, he will wear it proudly. Nevertheless, he is a card-carrying member of DBU, a black card member of DBU, number 21 in your program, but number 1 in your hearts, Mr. Rod Babers. And
thanks
Rod,
for the intro,
before we get going, speaking of DBU, quick shout-out to our friends at Last Stand Hats, who hooked you up with a DBU hat.
I heard that.
They are no longer allowed to sell the DBU hats.
Because of Dallas Baptist University? Wow, putting their foot down. Come on, Dallas
Baptist.
Baptist.
And desist. I remember when Texas played DBU, and we were laughing on there like, it's Texas versus DBU. Come on, that's pretty lame.
Come on, Dallas Baptist. I'm very upset.
So acronyms aren't like, you can't just have different acronyms? I guess
I guess not. Yeah.
Because there's UT and UT, there's all the different USC, South Carolina, USC. Like, it's all over the world.
I don't know how it works.
It's just who has the bigger lawyer.
I assume so. You're probably right about that. Actually, but no, that was actually, man, that was a cool hat. So Last Stand Hats, they still got a lot of great hats. I love the one with the Texas, the state of Texas did the fight in the middle.
That's probably my favorite hat that
left
they
field
have.
one that's really cool. Now
I like the left field hat also.
But now I gotta put my, the DBU on. I do have 2 though, because I did order another.
Hell, it might be worth more money now, like a collector's item.
It
there's only
definitely
a few
will be
out
now.
there.
Now you got to put them all.
This year rare, man.
Got to put them all in wrap, man. I got to
Number
wrap them up. Actually, you'll never see my DBU hats again. Thank you. I'm actually now I got to try to get all of DBU to sign the DBU hat.
Yeah.
And then wrap
really
it
wear
up.
something.
Boom. All right.
That's smart.
So
Next
are we
mission.
saying that the
Next
folks
min-
at the
implementation.
we're saying that the folks at Last Stand, Rod, need to get you a hat that you can wear on a regular basis?
No. My girlfriend actually bought me another one because she liked the DBU hat, so she got me another one. I think it's actually a lighter gray one, and I got the dark gray one. But
So you got one to wear and one to put away.
Now I should have got like 4 or 5 of them, but whatever.
Such is life. But shout out to Last Stand Hats.
Yeah,
They've been
shout
good to
out,
us.
man.
Been
I'm
good to
sad
everybody at the
about that.
Horn. But
Yeah.
plenty of great hats over there to choose from if you want to dabble in that. We'll get to spring football on the
Free
40
promotion
acres.
for you.
Scrimmage coming up this weekend, which we'll find out about that after it goes down. But let's go ahead and start with Pro Day. Rod, we want to start with the good or the bad with Pro Day?
I think you always you want good news, you want bad news. Don't you always start with the bad news?
With bad news
Cushion it
first?
with the good news. That's how I always want it.
It's better to end on the high note.
Okay.
Yeah, I will give me the bad news first, so I can digest it. Then give me some good news. Because the good news might be I won the lottery. You know what I
Right.
mean? The bad news may not matter.
Yeah.
You know.
We got to talk about this Lil Jordan Humphrey situation.
Yeah, that's bad.
And
That's the ugly too. The good, the bad,
I
and the ugly.
don't-
Start with the ugly.
Rod, you got to help me out
Reverse
here,
order.
man, because I don't know if he's getting bad advice, if he's not getting any advice, if he's just winging it. I don't know at this point, but this is the most bizarre draft process in the 11 years I've been in this market I've ever seen.
I'm not. I don't mean to
No,
laugh
it's
at it,
yeah,
but
but it's that
It's
weird
pretty funny.
because
it's crazy.
to sum up his pro day, yes, he improved on the 40, which probably he ran really in the low to
4.6s?
high 4.6s, which
That's
is probably
pretty-
where he
that's much
thought
better.
where everybody thought he was going to run at the combine. We
much
assumed he
better
was going to
for
run
him.
at the combine.
So at least he
But
improved.
then you get to the on-field drills, and he doesn't run routes. He does blocking drills with the tight ends.
was he asked to do routes? Did they ask him?
Here's the thing. He had several teams pull him aside afterwards and ask him, why didn't you run routes?
Because normally you
usually
talk to
they
them during
will-
the process and
Yeah,
stuff.
usually they will. I
Like
don't know
one
how it
coach
works,
I've
but
seen him pull
from what
people
I
to
know,
the side.
usually they will ask you. Coaches ask you to run certain drills. Did anybody ask him to run routes?
I believe so. He said he
Okay.
did not run routes because he did not feel comfortable running routes because he hadn't worked on route running in a while.
Okay.
Which my thing is, it's pro day.
You're a
It's-
wide receiver.
It's your
Or you're
pro
working on
day
your speed.
on your campus. You got a quarterback throwing you the ball, Shane Bouchel, who you've caught plenty of passes from before. The home field advantage is in your court. This should be the perfect time for you to
Okay.
showcase your skills.
Okay. So he wasn't running routes while he was training. I'm sorry, this is kind of funny to me.
He said he hadn't worked on routes in a while.
I thought I heard you say this morning that you had a source that said he wasn't doing a ton of training for the 40 either.
Leading up to the combine.
That's
yeah.
the combine. Okay, so now this is my theory, and it's a wacky theory, but it's the only thing that applies. The only thing I can think of.
One
He
team likes
wants
him.
to be an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, one team like to landing
He
spot.
wants to be an undrafted free agent really badly. He's like, no, it sounds crazy. So
It's
he
better
can
than
get-
anything I've thought
he'll
of,
be
Rod.
preferred undrafted
like one
free
team
agent.
has contacted him already, and like they'll go and get him.
He's like, he knows exactly where he wants to go, and that's the only thing I can think of as to why he
Yeah.
would approach this in such an irresponsible way.
I
You have already on the side
Right,
somebody
he's
like
got-
Kingsbury's
Boom.
went and talked
Hopefully-
to LJ and be like, dude, we're going to sign you
Exactly.
immediately. You're going to be there with Kyler. You're going to be on drafted free agent. I wonder.
Hopefully
teams,
it's the Texans. Hopefully the Texans are the team that told him, hey man, don't worry, we got your preferred free agent. You'll be our starting one of our starting slot guys. I don't know.
You know,
That's my only theory.
I feel
That would make sense.
I feel bad for
Only thing
him.
that makes sense.
I feel bad for him. And again, Rod,
I do.
You're laughing when we're not making light of the situation.
I am not.
It's
Laughing at the evidence.
I'm laughing at how crazy it is that
I
people
le-
say I'm not running routes.
What
I
are you gonna be, a
left the
wide receiver?
I left the pro day thinking he has worked himself out of the draft.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I said. Like it's puzzling
It's crazy.
that I've never seen anything like this.
I can't think, because to me the advice that I would give him coming out of the combine situation where he ran the slowest 40 of any wide receiver would be, okay, anything they ask you to do, we're gonna do. As a matter of fact, we'll put on our own damn workout to show off.
Go overboard.
Yeah, to show off what you do well, and route running would definitely be in that I would put that in whatever performance, all right, you're going to try to showcase or whatever you're going to try to do, because you want to show that the 40 time doesn't necessarily determine how good you are at getting out of your breaks and accelerating out of your breaks and things like that. Like that you actually do that really well. And the 40 time, like the 40 time doesn't match up with your film. It also doesn't match up with, hey man, I watched this guy run routes in person, and trust me, he's got a burst. Like, I'm telling you, he has great body control and great catch radius. Hell, I would love to have him out there running routes, and I tell him that, hey man, I want some off target throws. You know what I mean? I want to see him, because Pro Football Focus said, I believe his contested catches, I believe he was top 10 in the country in contested catches. He was also a top 10 in the country in terms of catching passes that were off-target throws. He was really good at adjusting his body on the fly. All those things you should have been trying to show off at the pro day.
Yeah.
Now, I know at the combine you do drills like that and route running, but, man, in person like that, up close in person, you want to see coaches looking at that big frame and going, damn, man, that big frame can move. He can sink them hips. He can get in and out of the breaks. I don't know why you would deny yourself that. I would tell him, hell yeah, we're running routes. We're going to run routes for about 30 minutes, just straight running routes. We're going to run the whole damn route tree. You know what I mean? Like, so Shane
running from the slot, from the wide side of the field, from the boundary.
What?
You want me to run it from the backfield? Like, what?
We're going to do the Kobe workout, but on the route tree. You know what I mean? We just get every route 5 times. Boom, 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 and let everybody see it. You want to see it from a different angle? Oh, Patriots, y'all want to see it from a different angle? Let's do that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get it.
Like,
that's why it's funny to me that he decided not to run routes.
If you're a scout, let's say, whether you're the area scout or whatever, you're, high up in the personnel office, the team sends you to Texas Pro Day. So we need to get a look at the Humphrey kid because, we still like him regardless of the time.
Exactly.
What do you report back to your GM? Like, seriously, what do you?
I know. I hate to quit. I hate to keep laughing. This is not funny, but
no, like Rod, it's the most mind-boggling thing I've ever seen, and I almost hope he's not getting advice from somebody, because if that's an agent advising him on what to do,
fire him right now.
Should have done it 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, and whoever was advising him before the draft, hopefully he fired them too. He just needs to get back to basics of, no, I'm willing to do it, and to not be willing to do anything at those workouts, unless you're a draftable prospects, and right now I think there are 4 of those guys on the 40 acres. They're drafted, and maybe 3 now, because we thought Lil Jordan Humphrey was in that. So maybe
I think for sure Gary Johnson, Charles Omenihu, Chris Boyd.
Yeah, I think it's 3. Yeah, Lil Jordan Humphrey now. I think he was, and maybe he's not. But especially if you're on the fringe there after that, you would think you'd be open to do any and everything.
Like, you should have been working.
You should have been asking scouts, do they need to see anybody need to see anything else? You need to see me do something? Come on. I mean, you need to see me do another drill? Yeah, so I'm with you. I don't really understand the thought process. I still think he's going to make an NFL roster. I do, even as an undrafted free agent. And,
it's not going to shock me if he does.
Yeah, you and I have talked about it. Texas for years now has become, it's kind of it went from being a bargain bin, to a clearance rack, to being kind of a wholesale. It's a warehouse. I mean, it's a warehouse full of talent that you can get on the cheap, penny stocks at Texas. And Poona Ford might have been one of the best values in all of, and I can't say the draft. You know what I mean? Just last year's class. All right, coming out, that rookie class, he might have been one of the best values, period, in the NFL. Holton Hill, another one. Yeah, you know what I mean? You're talking about guys going to end up being starters for you. They were undrafted free agents. I know that's, it's not as rare as you would think, but man, that's a hell of a value. That's like finding a brand new smart TV on Craigslist. You know what I mean? Like, that's that kind of value. Yeah. I mean, it is some serious value. So I think that's why all 32 teams are like, no, you always send somebody down to Texas. Because they haven't been developing talent necessarily really well. And I think that's going to change with Tom Herman. But because of that, they're still bringing in talent. So there's always some diamonds in the rough, guys who went undeveloped and they were just in the wrong situation or in the wrong system, wrong time, different coach, whatever.
Here's where I'll buy your theory, Rod, that maybe he's got a team that's already said, look, we're either taking you or signing you, one or the other.
It's a crazy theory, but it's the only thing I can think of.
The only workout I heard him say that he for sure has coming up is the Cowboys have their area kind of pro day coming up next week for guys that either went to high school or played college ball in the area. So maybe that's the team that said, look, it doesn't matter what the numbers say. We're either taking you late or, we'll have a good deal for you right after the draft.
Which can also be fool's gold because teams lie all the time. Oh, no, if you're there, brother, we're going to draft you.
Rod, how many teams told you they were going to take you?
I probably had the Falcons told me that, if I was there in the mid rounds, 3 and 4, they were going to take me. Obviously, I got to go back and look and see if that worked out. So, and so I'm sure that teams always say that. We really love you. They brought me in on a visit. So they did really like me because they did, fly me up there for a visit. But I don't know. I think the situations change. Circumstances change. The draft board changes. A guy they were in love with more than they are in love with you, who also feels a necessity on the roster, may also pop up and be available. You just never know what's going to happen. So, I just, it's just really, really interesting that Lil Jordan Humphrey isn't more focused. And now, the thing that worried me the most was, 40-yard dash time. We've seen guys with slow 40s succeed in the NFL. Trust me. And I play in the NFL. I still believe in football speed. It's a real thing. I've seen Dre Bly run with Randy Moss.
Run and then run from a tiger. If you're being chased, it's human instinct.
I know it exists. And it's more about geometry and angles and, body control and technique and all those different things. But I've seen guys who run 4.5s and 4.6s do things, and track down guys who run 4.3s. It's football. It's not just track. So the speed doesn't worry me as much as now people are questioning the work ethic. That's remember we said that's the biggest thing coming out of the combine. People were like, well, did he take the process seriously enough? We know he's not that damn slow.
And that's what college is about.
Hell, I can go out there and probably run a 4.75. Hell, Rich Eisen can get close to running a 4.75. So we know that's not his real speed. Did he just not take the process seriously enough? Did he think that this job interview was something that was, something he could take for granted and not fully commit and devote himself to? And that was a red flag. And I think now he's almost confirmed that theory.
Yeah.
The speed thing is not even a concern anymore. The speed thing is not going to drop him in the draft as much now. It's like, I don't even know if that guy takes it seriously enough to even be a professional in the NFL.
Yeah.
Right?
Volunteering that info when it's they don't know that thing unless you give them that evidence.
And it's like, okay, so let's say he was being advised to do those things. Well, he's also going to be under bad advisement when I draft him or when I bring him in as an undrafted free agent. I don't want a guy who's taking bad advice. All right? You know what I mean? I want a guy who's taking good advice, who's smart enough to know what bad advice is. I don't need that guy. You know what I mean? I think now, if I'm a scout, I think, and I heard this after the combine. I haven't talked to anybody after pro day. I think that's the concern now.
Yeah,
is he just is he a mimbo, just a male bimbo? Like you just don't get it? Did you? Did you think because of your great season that you were gonna the NFL was just gonna roll out the red carpet and you were gonna hit the yellow brick road to the NFL because you've been talking to your boys Houghton Hill and Puna and all that, and I hope they let you know how tough it was. You know what I mean? And how hard it is, because that's the hardest road to get there. You had an easier road if you could have gotten drafted by a team, but he can still make it as an undrafted free agent, no question about it. He's that good. If he gets to an NFL training camp, people will see, oh, that guy's a matchup problem. All right. I see what to do with him.
Yeah, the one thing I was going to point out was, Chris Boyd probably had the money quote from Pro Day. He said, LJ was on You Got Mossed 3 weeks in a row. He said nobody's questioning his speed at that point, which I agree with. The film is what it is. The film doesn't lie. But now, as you said, Rod, and we talked about this after the combine, now you've got a whole different bag of questions that have very little to do with his speed.
That you just sort of brought up for no reason. You didn't have to volunteer this ammunition for them to use against you, basically, just by your actions.
One knock was your speed.
It was simple. It's like showing up, like the way that, you go to college, and a lot of college really isn't for what you learn, but it's to prove your worth, that you will go through the hard work and do these type of things.
Time management, all that.
And that's what, the NFL Combine, if you can't do the simple things like showing, I'm going to work hard for my first interview. I'm going to work hard and please my future possible employer by doing just these standard things that a wide receiver does. It just gives them stuff that they can use against you. And when you have all these other options, especially nowadays when the world just saturated with these skill players, it's only going to be used against you, which can only hurt you.
I can't remember a Texas wide receiver that's either been drafted or made it in the league as an undrafted free agent who didn't run routes at the pro day.
Yeah.
No, it makes no sense. Like, unless you're going to be a top, like Roy Williams and going to go in the top 5 and you can only hurt yourself. Everybody.
Yeah, like if Roy Williams doesn't want to run routes.
Smith had like the best route running day we ever saw of a tight end.
No, I'm with you. I don't get that. I don't understand it.
Like Marcus Johnson ran routes at his pro day. That probably got him on a roster. He's got a Super Bowl ring now.
Yeah.
Still around.
I don't. I really don't. I don't understand exactly what he's doing.
I really hope the best for LJ Humphrey. I really do, because we saw how talented and how much of a unicorn he is.
Which is
on the
why
field.
he'll still land somewhere. But then you can't screw up again. Like you already sort of. It's like how if you fail the piss test before you go in to the NFL, then it's going to be really hard. Well, now for the rest of your career, people are going to be looking to see if you're doing what you should be doing, only because you have had this sort of tip them off. Like, oh well, we're going to make sure LJ's hard on staying in shape, which you sort of don't have to say about players these days.
Right.
You don't hear
whatever the concern is. Like if the concern is, well, he's lazy, you better be the first guy in the weight room, the meeting room, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
As you said, Rod, you better make it hard to get cut by always being around the facility.
So, yeah.
If work ethic is the concern, then you need to be that type of guy.
He still may get a team that'll take a chance on him late in the draft. I mean, some team just may have that luxury and go, man, we really like him. This will be good to get him.
And don't want to risk losing him in free agency.
And be a team that's just very confident in what they're looking at and what they need and the tools. And in the passing game, that's almost the best position to have that situation be how you're going to be found.
Yeah, but I think you got to know how to use them, because with the speed concern, I think now is pivotal. He play in the slot. And almost the closer you can get him to the line of scrimmage, the better. Almost has a big flex.
Yeah, and now you're expected to catch uncatchable balls and those type of things.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be being drafted on those film tapes that you've seen, and they're going to expect you to outperform sort of what all your metrics say you are actually physically.
Yeah, I think that's why. Some people want to see him block. They're like, okay, let's see if we can just start adding weight to him.
That actually that's the only good thing he did.
His speed becomes an asset and it's not a liability.
Right.
If you just make him a flex tight end.
What about if this would maybe be the case because he's a guy that, even though it seemed as if he's a good route runner, maybe isn't the best technician at route running, but was a good blocker, the ability to want to be physical. So he shows that he has this skill that he's able to block and shows it, because I thought it was bizarre at first to think about it. But then it's like, well, no, I got my game film. Y'all know how I run routes on film in game day. Okay, you don't think I can block? I'll do some blocking drills. Like, that's the only thing I could think of to put out there. And then he just is so trusting in his game tape, which is not a good decision, but he may be thinking that.
He's still got a lot of upside. He hadn't played wide receivers,
he was a running back
for 3 years, something like that. Just a wide receiver position. So he's got a lot of upside, man. There's no question about it. I would love him with the Texans. Or if I was a Cowboys fan, I'd love him with the Cowboys. He'd be perfect for them because he could kind of sit back and be a project for them.
And how you brought up how teams may lie to you about interest and stuff. I looked it up. Atlanta, 2 picks before you were drafted Justin Griffith, the fullback. And then in the 5th round, they drafted a guy that doesn't have a position next to him. John Olinger. He looks like offensive lineman.
A fullback over me. That's all right.
And at least a Justin Griffith. He stuck around. He was like one of the last fullbacks.
Yeah, I hope the best for LJ Humphrey is it's going to be. But we talk about the tight end thing, like or a big slot. Like, how big is he going to get?
Well,
his frame could get filled up.
Yeah, I mean, he played at 220 probably, something like that.
The way that
he played at about 220. I think he was 210 at the combine. I don't know what he was at pro day. He played at 220. He probably can add 15,
be a Ricky Seals-Jones type body that like Arizona uses.
It's a big body and a flex tight end.
But again, it's going to be one of those deals. It's going to have to be a franchise that's confident,
and it's got to be the perfect situation.
It's confident in him. Okay, he'll put in the work, and like I said,
exactly.
Like I said,
like making the stars align.
It all goes back to that, and that we're not even. You said we're not even talking about the speed anymore. It's how serious does he take being a professional?
That's lofty expectations for a guy you're questioning the work ethic of right now.
So we'll see how it works out for LJ Humphrey again. Hopefully it works out for the best. Again, he's got to work out with the Cowboys. We'll see how that goes and kind of track his draft process. But, Rod, we always love this time of year because we always talk about guys that are going to make rosters, guys that have a chance to make rosters. And you look each of the last 5 pro days, Texas has had at least one guy make an active NFL roster as an undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
So who are those guys going to be this year? Well, I think there were 3 guys at the pro day that really helped themselves. I think one was Calvin Anderson, who he said he played in about the 280s, so his 1 year at Texas. Weighed in at 296, good length, good feet. Did 30 reps on the bench, and his 3-cone shuttle was a 7.13, which is a better time than Charles Omenihu ran. Even though Charles dropped weight and retested, he ran a 7.22. Calvin Anderson ran a 7.13 on the 3-cone, so that's good for him. At 30 reps on the bench, he said in training he'd only done 28, so to get to 30 for him was good because he said people were questioning his strength. Rod, he's a guy I can see maybe even being a practice squad guy that gets on a practice squad for a year and maybe is kind of a developmental guy. The thing that I think teams will like about him, and we've talked about this a lot, especially when we talk about offensive linemen, sometimes your best ability is your availability, and you're looking at a guy that started 50 straight games at the collegiate level, never missed a game because of injury.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, and, I think that he's one of those guys that Herb Hand, I think that year with Herb Hand is going to help him out a lot. Herb Hand's got a lot of respectability in those coaching circles. And, I mean, right now in the NFL, they're all looking for projects on the offensive line. I remember the Browns. Was it Desmond Harrison?
Yeah.
With the Browns.
He's starting.
I think he started week 1 for them at left tackle.
Brought him in as an undrafted free agent. And they just liked his size, honestly. And Calvin Anderson is, 6'5"?
Didn't we all at one point?
Yeah.
That was one of the first off-the-bus guys Jeff ever spoke about. He was like, no, this guy off the bus now. On the field, but he looks like an NFLer.
Well, go look at him. NFL teams did the same thing. And I think with Calvin Anderson, he's 6'5", close. I mean, he
probably
tried to get him to 300, So, I mean, I think he's got a shot. Yeah, there's no question he'll get an invite to a training camp. The question that you get to is, can he stick for more than 1 year and 1 season? Can he actually make an active roster? You know what I mean? And for him, it'll be tough because I think he's a little light. You know what I mean?
Like you said, 290. He's at 296.
Yeah, he probably needs about 10 pounds on him. But I don't know. He's pretty strong, though. I mean, 30 reps on the bench. I want to say there are only 5 offensive linemen, maybe at the combine, that had more reps on the bench than he did. So, I mean, that's pretty good. He's stronger than I thought he was.
I think his background, too, graduating was a mathematics degree from Rice.
Yeah, he's a smart guy.
His father's military. Yeah. So I think the intangibles with him, teams will find it'll be.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It'll be through the roof. I was writing some of this down on the fly. Calvin Anderson, he's got a workout coming up with the Texans, and he's flying out to meet with the Vikings, I believe, next week. So he's got some teams lined up. The other guy that I think
the Texans just need bodies on their line. If he is an undrafted free agent and he can pick where he wants to go, he should go to the Texans.
Yeah.
That's the worst offensive line, arguably, in the NFL. And all they did in the offseason was add Matt Khalil, I believe, who's been injured like the last 2 years. That offense, man, you can end up somehow cracking that rotation. I'm telling you, that offensive line is really bad.
When you look at these rosters, the way that they really fill out your practice squad and those guys really does align a lot with those local workout camps because they don't like going out of the region. And him being a Rice guy and a Texas guy would fit huge for that type of, especially if he's a guy.
There's a pipeline there. I won't say Christian Covington's from Rice, maybe.
He just signed with the Cowboys,
but he was from with the Texans, and so it's a little pipeline there.
Yeah, and the Texans will take guys. They'll take guys from the local workout. They drafted Deontay Foreman off the local workout.
Well, I mean, and that's where you go. Everything from Minnesota and Thielen. When you look at every roster, there's a guy that's made it big time. That's just because he's that local workout camp guy that you can keep cheap and get on a practice squad, and then they can learn within and don't take up a roster spot. So if you get that hard worker, which he seems like the perfect fit for that 4-year guy, Rice guy, smart guy to all fit those boxes for them. And I looked up the combine.
He was at Rice Christian Covington. So they got a little pipeline there.
And then looked up, only 5 guys did more on the bench than him at the entire combine. It was
So yeah, I mean, actually, Najee.
One of them was Kajus from West Virginia too.
Yeah, who I also like. Really, I think for the
measurables
Texans.
Probably pretty similar to him. He's 6'5", 312 with 30 and 34-inch arms.
Yeah, Texans will be looking for an offensive lineman in the draft first and second round. But yeah, if he's an undrafted free agent, that's the beauty of the undrafted free agent. At least you can strategically pick out your situation. And Holden Hill did a really good job, and Poona Ford did a really good job, and that's part of it. And Lil Jordan Humphrey. Hopefully he doesn't have to do that, but he may have to do a really good job of figuring out what situation. So for Calvin Anderson, Texans, baby. Texans.
And didn't Deontay Foreman just show up to the Texans' local workout before
I think
his
so,
draft?
yeah.
And that was a big thing that got them. They liked his work ethic.
He wanted to get drafted by the Texans.
He showed up to that knowing that they go and pay a lot of attention to that. And it was a tipping point when you hear Bill O'Brien. I heard him talk about it before Deontay's injury. Like, we don't worry about his rehab. He was here for no reason whatsoever for a local workout because he wants to play football here.
Yeah, he wants to be a Texan. He said that even before the draft. He said, I want to be a Texan. I'm a Texans fan. My family all Texans fans. I grew up here in H-Town. That's all I want. He said, I went to Texas. He said, I don't want to leave the state. I just want to make. He said, I want to stay in the state my entire football career. It was really cool. And I think the Texans, they bought it.
Yeah, I mean, as you guys know, we did, and I spent a lot of time with Deontay in the pre-draft process. There were a few teams that I really thought were going to take him. I really thought for a minute like the Patriots.
Yeah, I did too.
Obviously they were looking for a running back.
He flew up there for a meeting and sat down with Bill Belichick and the whole thing. But,
and then as a rookie,
that'd have been nice.
The Texans did end up taking him.
He immediately burnt them in like that first preseason game. He caught like a 53-yard slant for a touchdown, and
that'd have been good.
Yeah.
Speaking of smart guys whose fathers are in the military, Andrew Beck, Rod. I think Andrew Beck has gotten himself from the point where maybe we're not talking about him being a priority free agent. He might get drafted.
He's Greg Swayman.
He's Jeff Swayman. Might pull a Jeff Swain.
Because, he ran in the kind of the mid 4.5s to the low 4.6 range in the 40.
I know, that was big. I did not expect him to be in the 40. He's
And
faster than Lil Jordan Humphrey.
I talked
Let
to
him
him.
run the 9 route, coach.
I talked to him after the pro day.
He can block too.
And, he said the one thing the scouts wanted to see from him was how well he caught the ball.
Yeah.
Because as he put it, what several scouts told him, look, we know you can block from any position on the field. How do you look catching the ball? And he's got a very realistic view on what his NFL future is going to be.
Exactly.
He said, look, it's probably going to be maybe a third, but probably a fourth tight end / fullback that, when a team wants to go to short yardage package, he's their fullback.
He's going to try to do everything. He'll try to be a holder and foot. He
even said he's like, look, I'll punt, kick, whatever you need me to do.
Which some coaches like those guys because on your roster, he end up playing every special teams and being a fullback and being an H-back. Versatility, man.
Sounds like a Patriot.
You can do a lot of jobs and you can do them for cheap. I like that. Yes, it's the Patriot way pretty much. James Devlin, undrafted free agent.
No, he is James Devlin.
Yeah.
Or
James
that Humanui guy.
Exactly right.
They're all the same.
Yeah.
Am I crazy to think Andrew Beck might get drafted?
No.
No, he could Jeff Swayman, no doubt. He could Jeff Swayman or he could, was it Ahmad Hollett?
Basically, when Jeff Swaim did it and wasn't a receiver at the time, now you see Andrew Beck's at least has more on film and he performed better in workouts. So on paper, he should definitely get drafted if Jeff Swaim did.
What's going to hurt him is there are a lot of freaks in this tight end draft.
Yeah.
Just physical
it's
freaks.
It's evolving there.
Yeah, same thing's going to hurt like a guy like Chris Nelson from sneaking in.
But he is at a position that is of high demand, so that's big.
It is just because, he's not just a tight end. He's a fullback, H-back, tight end, all that kind of stuff. So I think that will help him. The fact that he is – actually, we thought it would hurt him here at Texas that we don't know whether he's a tight end or an H-back or a fullback. That is going to be his biggest asset.
That hybrid for the different personnel groupings.
He is all
you can go up there with different personnel groupings, and they don't know what
Sean Payton loves those guys. Sean Payton's got like 2 or 3 of those guys.
Yeah, that Josh Hill dude, and then that Dan Arnold guy. They came out late in the year and were catching balls all over the place.
He's got a bunch of those guys.
And speaking of position versatility, PJ Locke, I thought of the guys who were probably going to be priority free agent type guys. I thought he had by far the best day out of anybody. Weighed in at 202. Rod did 20 reps on the bench. clocked as low or 22 reps on the bench. Sorry, 39-inch vertical.
Shorten that man is 2 reps.
The 40 range for him, as far as he knew, was anywhere from a 4.39 to a 4.45.
Yeah.
He said one watch had him as low as a 4.36. And he's kind of marketing himself as, look, I'm a nickelback who can cover like a corner and play safety. He knows position versatility, the ability to play multiple spots, be a sub-package guy is how he's going to have to make a roster. But we look at Chris Nelson being helped by the Poona Ford factor. The Quandre Diggs factor sounds like it's starting to help P.J. Locke in terms of a guy who, not the biggest body in the world, but a guy that plays physical, is willing to throw his body around, and likes to hit people from that nickel position.
Well, no doubt. Even before him, though, Adrian Phillips, I think, is probably a more, in my opinion, it's a more apt comparison because P.J. Locke, he may end up sneaking up into some rounds now. I mean, I remember guys like Carrington Bindum did just because of his versatility. But I think that Adrian Phillips is what he reminds me of because he played so many different positions. Played corner, played safety, played nickel. And now Quandre did all that too. I think Quandre was a way better cover guy than PJ. Like Quandre could just straight up cover. PJ, I don't know if PJ is a great cover man. You know what I mean? Like he's Adrian Phillips. I didn't think Adrian Phillips was a great cover man. Right. But I knew he was a smart football player, smart as hell, because Coach Akina kept saying it. He was physical. He was willing to strike you. And Quandre is uniquely small but willing to strike you. And PJ's a little bigger than Quandre. I think he may be closer to what Adrian Phillips is, in my opinion. But that's why Adrian Phillips was able to make a career out of playing in the NFL, because he was smart, he was versatile, and he was consistent. You know what I mean? So that's my comparison, because I don't think he can cover. I think that's his weakness, is that he can't cover, but he makes up for that with the fact that he's so multidimensional.
Right.
And then, you brought up earlier the value that you can get in a guy like him, and you mentioned Holton Hill earlier, and I just found the numbers from Pro Football Focus on it. But a guy like him that went undrafted really late, out of 200 cover snaps last year or more, he ended up being sixth with a passer rating allowed of just 67, ahead of guys like Stephon Gilmore at 71%, Denzel Ward was 70%, Minkah Fitzpatrick was at 67%. Yeah. So you can, just seeing that type of production is going to get guys to come and look at the DBs, because the laundry list that you just brought up, in the way that you can get the immediate production, and you may be able to tap it out here before everybody sort of realizes that the value is going to, Herman is probably going to be able to be the last guy to have it, where the players, they're probably going to start getting drafted where you expect them to get drafted. That value may be seeping out of the university.
These guys will get drafted.
It's the very end of guys lower than...
Should be a guy drafted in the 7th or the 6th round. But it's interesting. Go look at the undrafted free agents. I read your column at Horns 24/7. It's really good, really well done about the amount of undrafted free agents right now in the NFL from Texas. I think there were 12 of them out of the 29.
Yeah. More than
29 players.
And Phil Dawson's one of the 12. He's the only one that doesn't fall.
Phil Dawson is the biggest freak of nature. He's pre-Mac. It's absurd.
And most of them have come most recently, right? During the Texas down years, the undrafted free agents go up. And that's not a coincidence, of course, because the talent is going undeveloped.
The production on the field's not there.
Underdeveloped. Yeah. You know what I mean? So in that fact, the NFL goes, well, let's go. Back in the day when I was playing,
those 5 stars.
It was Marcus Wilkins and D.D. Lewis. Every now and then you would get a really good undrafted free agent out there. Priest Holmes back in the day. But for the most part, man, those guys ended up getting drafted in the Mac Brown 10+ win years. Man, those guys are getting drafted.
Then they were getting drafted over value
rounds. Yeah, stuff like that. And because everybody's coming here, and then Texas is winning, and their second and third team guys are really good too. They're producing talent, and they're producing and developing talent at a really high level. In 2010, as soon as Texas falls off, you can literally see the undrafted free agents from Texas start to spike.
Yeah.
And remember that 2014 year for Charlie Strong, that first year? And I think you wrote a piece about this too, how many undrafted free agents came out in that class. They ended up being really good players. Adrian Phillips is in that class.
You talking about after the 13 season?
Yeah, after that 13 season class. In that class.
Yeah, that was Adrian Phillips, Jackson Jeffcoat, Trey Hopkins, Donald Hawkins.
Ken Perkins.
No, Perkins was later.
Was he?
But, there's somebody else. Carrington Bindum was a guy. Yeah, there were like
a ton of
probably 6 or 7 guys that hung around for at least a year.
Or more.
Yeah. And even Jackson Jeffcoat's carved out a really nice career for himself in the CFL. He was at Pro Day yesterday.
Yeah, so my point is, like, it's one of those things where I think now, as Matt mentioned, you'll get less undrafted free agents, and that should be the case. And much
This
like
may be the
Bama or
last
Clemson or Ohio State, you shouldn't be having, Texas shouldn't have that many undrafted free agents. It shouldn't be the bargain bin wholesale warehouse that's become.
Real quick on PJ Locke, teams that he said he's either met with or meeting with or interested, the Bucks, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Steelers, and the Ravens, all teams that have been interested in him. Rod, to your point, one of my takeaways, and I did a takeaways piece on the site, one of my takeaways was, watching the guys work out, you look around and see some of the current players watching, and you look at guys like Junior Angilau, Brendan Eagles, Jalen Green, Caden Stearns was out there watching, and you're like, some of these guys put out workout clothes and started working out for the scouts. They wouldn't be out of place at all.
No,
it's just a different. It's a different breed of cat Tom Herman's bringing into this program right now.
Yeah, I think that's pretty obvious that those guys coming in have a really, really high ceiling, and these older guys, though, I do like that I think they are going to be really good for the psyche and for the culture that they're leaving, because those guys, they were so downtrodden for a while, and they experienced such a low. Charles Minute, who remembers losing to Kansas.
Yeah.
I'm glad they were able to implement that, plant that little seed in some of these youngsters, so that entitlement that crept in and deteriorated and decayed the culture of Texas football, for 4 or 5 years, it won't creep back in. Like, they still remember that. Like, even when they just played, they went from losing to Kansas to playing in the Sugar Bowl in with 3 years. You know what I mean? That's so that I'm glad that still rings to some of the guys that's on the team, and that Charles Omenihu and some of the players on there, they still were able to impart that message to the young guys. I like that. That's going to keep them hungry for a long time.
Even the Maryland opener last year is enough to do it, because it wasn't Kansas embarrassing, but it was embarrassing and unexpected that then they were like, oh man, it's just a reality slap that quick. That's sort of why you like having that game so early, the non-conference, because it sort of shows that you really can lose one of those and survive, even though it's not preferred.
Yeah, because our undrafted free agent discussion basically tells you that Texas does have talent. I mean, they did have talent. They just stopped developing that talent. And you can really see when Mac stopped developing it, pretty much. It was around 2010, 2009, actually.
When Earl leaves.
It really is. It starts in 2009, but Coates here. So Coates here drinking raw milk and unpasteurized milk. He's a freaking Superman.
I had to tweet out Jay Gruden. Why does he volunteer that?
It doesn't even matter. So him and Jordan Shipley, they just dominate college football with the greatest bromance ever. But we remember watching them not being able to move the ball on Rice, on first and goal. We remember those moments, and I think that was kind of the beginning of the end. And that's when Mac Brown stopped developing that talent. He was still bringing in talent, stopped developing that talent. Tom Herman, he's a freak, and he's a obsessive compulsive about developing talent and about the little things. So he's far from being where grandfather Mac was in 2010 when everything slipped.
At this point, if you're not a believer in Yancey McKnight, I don't know what else you need to see.
Yeah, Brecken Hager is a primary example of that, right? Brecken Hager, what did he jump, 39? Did he jump 39 and a half?
All those
White
guys.
man can't jump. He jumped 39 and a half.
That's
Had like a 10-3 broad jump, I think.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What the hell? That's crazy. That's freakish right there. He's a good example of
you look at the development,
son.
Yeah.
The development Charles Omenihu had, the development PJ Locke had physically. Like, you can't. The best way I can put it, there was a player of a guy, a parent of somebody who was participating in Pro Day, who we were talking, and we actually started talking about Yancey. He's like, we're here during the wrong 4-year period. It's like it's about to get really good around here.
There you go. Pretty much. That's exactly right. And you can see it too. You really can. Like you said, you can kind of see it in the guys.
And that's what started the conversation. It's like, if you look over Tom's, this is third spring. He's like, it just the noticeable difference just in how guys look and what they look like running around on the field.
And the guys see each other too, and they see their own development. So then they buy in even more. Then they're doubling down in their belief and faith in the program. Not only do they believe in the football product, they believe in the strength and conditioning part of the product too. So now you got now everything's about to steamroll.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. It's pretty, to me, it's pretty promising.
And when you brought up the downfall, just that aligns with that 2009, it was just like when I was watching the NCAA tournament, and it like seeing Gardner-Webb triggered it into me, and I was like, I remember Texas playing Gardner-Webb, and I immediately was like, I know why. That was when Texas was unanimous #1 in basketball for the first time, and Uline Colts injury, and a week later, and Texas falls off and loses 6 of 8 basketball games after being unanimous #1. Yeah. And Texas basketball has not developed talent since then, and Texas football hasn't. They've had talent. Texas has seen all these lottery picks at the top, but you've got no production out of it. And we're literally in 2019, we're a decade. It's been a decade where both programs fell off a cliff in the same week in January, post Colt McCoy, and whatever happened to that Barnes team in 2009 that never, ever came back. It's crazy.
So it's also ridiculous that anybody would question Texas basketball's talent. They have tons of talent.
Every single year you have NBA Defensive Player of the Year. Miles Turner's going to be in the top 3 or top 4 Defensive Player of the Year.
Tons of talent. That's not the issue. I don't think that's ever been an issue for Texas football.
Jackson
either.
Hayes is another one.
I don't think that was the issue. There were other issues.
The talent's been there in both programs for the whole decade.
I heard Urban Meyer say this one time, and I hate citing Urban Meyer for various reasons, but I heard him say this after his tenure in Florida, which again, that was his own undoing. But anyway, the point I'm getting to is I once heard Urban Meyer say the reason why it fell off at Florida, was they got so concerned with acquiring talent that they forgot what it took to build a team.
Yeah.
And I think we saw that at Texas. Like, well, they got top 15 recruiting classes. Yeah,
exactly right.
There's no question with the talent. But what system are you recruiting this talent to? If you're changing offenses every year,
exactly right.
Then what the hell are you really doing? You're just spinning your wheels.
Have you seen what type of football we're playing here in Central Texas?
You're firing defensive coordinators.
Football.
You're firing defensive coordinators every 2 or 3 years.
Exactly right. Yep, that's exactly right. It takes it takes a lot more to build a championship team than just bringing in the talent, and that's a big part of it.
Right.
But Texas had talent. Texas shouldn't have been losing games like they were losing games and losing to teams like Kansas. They had better talent than that. That's the whole point. Texas basketball should be in the tournament. I don't know. They're not going to win the tournament, but they have enough talent to be in the tournament. Right. And that's kind of the point I think Texas sports fans get to with whatever program you're talking about.
Right.
I know. I'm venturing over into basketball.
It all aligns, man. It's all Texas sports, and they're all frustrating for a while.
Matt, we don't have a ton of time left this week, do we?
No, we can go as long as you want, though.
Okay, well, hell, we'll make it work. Let's talk some spring football. And, Rod, I know it's the spring, and injuries in the spring aren't nearly as catastrophic as they are in the fall, but starting to get a little thin at safety. Brandon Jones on the shelf with the ankle surgery. Caden Stearns now on the shelf. He's finally getting this knee problem taken care of that's been bugging him for almost a year now. And now I find out B.J. Foster has a concussion. So while I do think there's something to be said for, hey, Chris Brown and DeMarvion Overshown and Josh Thompson are getting all this work, the one injury that kind of concerns me is B.J. Foster, not because of anything to do with like his long-term health or anything like that, but the fact that he's moving to a new position, and we've talked a lot about just how important that nickel position is, specifically in this defense and in this conference. This is a spring where I want B.J. Foster working as many reps in that nickel position as he can possibly get.
Yeah, what concerns me is, and I'm not worried about the guys being healthy for spring. I mean, spring football is what it is. As long as they're healthy for the season, that's all that matters. My concern is, it's kind of along the lines with yours, is that we haven't seen a defense have this much of an exodus of talent and experience probably in 30 years on the 40 acres. They lost 223 combined starts. They lost 8 starters. We haven't seen a defense lose that much.
That 14 defense, I think I figured out. I think it was like 201.
Yeah, it was like right around 200. Yeah, so we just haven't really seen this much talent leaving. Now there's a lot of talent coming back, and that's great. But it takes time to develop, communication and continuity and a little camaraderie and the culture on defense, the leadership, all that kind of stuff, accountability. And, with these safeties being out, I think that's where your leadership started, or at least was going to start on this particular defense. Brandon Jones, Caden Stearns, hell, even B.J. Foster. Right. And those guys are going to be out for the spring. I'm not worried about their play. They'll come back and they'll be great. They'll play at all conference, all American levels. but now it may take the defense a little bit more of a time to find its groove when the season starts. You know what I mean? And you got LSU early on, and hell, even last year we saw, hey man, Maryland can throw a little jab in there. So I'm not in a time where I know inexperience is going to be the big concern. Linebacker is a big concern to me. I'm worried about now the defense communicating with mostly new starters, learning how to communicate different things. Like, this is when you fix the glitches within the defense, right? So we're running a cover 3, and we had a combo coverage or a tango coverage, and you missed the outside cut, and I didn't go over the top. Then no, we can fix that. So we don't have to worry about that happening during the game. You know what I mean? And you learn how to communicate those different things. And so that's what they're going to miss. Like, they're not going to be able to have that opportunity. And this is going to be mostly a new defense. Todd Orlando's hasn't had a defense this, I would say, this new to him, because he mostly inherited starters his last 3 stops at Texas, U of H, and at Utah State. You got to go all the way back to Connecticut, back to 2010, when he had a defense that he largely recruited. This is going to be, I think, mostly 8 out of these 11 starters are going to be guys that he himself recruited. Yeah. So, it's maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing, but it's going to be all new, and that's my concern.
How much now, though, going back to your time at Texas and then the few years after you left, how much now of an emphasis does this put on summer 7-on-7s, and more specifically, now the fact that the NCAA does allow coaches, I think you can get 8 hours a week with your players, and I think 2 of them can be football specific, like coaching hours. Those few hours you've got in the summertime, if you're Todd Orlando, Craig Niver, Jason Washington, Oscar Josh, you got to maximize the hell out of those 8 hours, and specifically I think it's those 2 that you get where it's football specific stuff during the week.
And I think that's why Brandon Jones and Caden Stearns, how long they're going to be out, is big, because in the off time when the coaches can't be there, but you still can work install. You still can watch film. You know what I mean? We still can break down defense and talk defense and talk shop, and we can go out there and run 7-on-7 with our own players and everything and work on our coverages. That's got to be organized by the leaders. That's the leaders that organize that. Yeah. So I wonder who's going to take on that leadership role, because the linebackers, we can't tell you who the leaders or linebackers are. Maybe it's Jeffrey McCulloch. I mean, you got to play to be a leader, though. Hell, we don't know who's going to play yet. And on the defensive line, it's going to be largely new guys, but I love that Malcolm Roach and Taquan Graham are there. But, the defensive line doesn't work much in the offseason with the players. So, who organizes those workouts? Who's going to get it in? Who's say, hey, man, we got to watch film tonight, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Because you lost, P.J. Locke. You had somebody every year, right? It was a P.J. Locke there, or, it's not saying Houghton Hill was one of those guys, but hell, they had P.J. Locke there every year. And P.J. Locke, from what I understood,
he was one of those guys.
He was one of those guys. Like, he was a straight up leader. Heck, even with Chris Boyd and Deshaun Elliott and all those guys there, like, he was a leader. I think he kind of passed that on to Brandon Jones, who Todd Orlando calls the dude.
Yeah, PJ and I were talking about this after Pro Day yesterday. We're talking about playing the nickel position, which, I like picking his brain about it. And I said, how tough that position is. I said, is it an instinct thing or is it a film study thing? He's like, that position's hard enough as it is. You better be watching a lot of film and better have all your stuff together.
Yeah, man.
Because you're still going to get beat. You're still going to have problems because just the nature of the position. It's like, but you better have all your stuff ready. You better have watched some film before you get on that field.
I know. That's a great question, too. I'm going to go back and start looking at all the nickel backs at Texas and see, like, which ones have been the best, because – man, it's a tough position to play in the modern era. Back in my day, I was good at it, but I didn't have to deal with what these guys have to deal with. I mean,
they didn't have to take on fullbacks from Nebraska either.
Yeah, that's true. That's a great point. But I did have
some guy named Makovica running downhill looking to take your head off.
Makovica's.
Yeah, but it's almost like, so would I have rather going up against the option offense of Nebraska, or would I have rather gone up against the wide receivers in the Big 12 this year? You know what I mean?
How much has that evolved?
Right?
The nickelback going from taking on lead blockers and the option to taking on the best wide receivers out there.
Yeah, but they still got to take on the run game. They still got to beat on the run. They got to do so much. They got to blitz, take on the run game. They got to drop back in coverage and play zone. They got to play man-to-man. And they got to do it against a wide receiver, usually one of the team's most athletic, explosive wide receivers with a two-way go.
Yes.
It's the hardest position to play, and I think the most important position in the Big 12.
Yeah, to your point, Rod, about the different responsibilities. If it's a run support situation and let's say the backside guard is pulling and his responsibility is kick out the end man on the line of scrimmage. Well, if you're the nickelback and you just happen to be the end man on the line of scrimmage,
Dude, that's
200 pound. That's 200-pound PJ Locke versus 330-pound backside guard.
Dude, and there's no technique your coach taught you that's going to work with that. It's like, no, the technique that you taught me does not apply.
Sheer force.
You're dealing with that
matter.
much mass. Yes. You know
it's inertia. It travels right through you.
Yeah, so, no, man, it is. And think about here's the lineage of the nickel position.
What's your biggest
so
fear?
far?
Austin? No, that man.
I like how Rod has this just handy in the stack of papers.
It's me, 99, going back to 99. Me, Nasty Nate, Huff Daddy played it for a little minute. They had a young Michael Griffin in it for a little while. They had, I'm trying to go in order here, but I'll probably get out. Kenny Vaccaro, I believe, played it for a little while. Then there's Quandre, Duke Thomas. I missed Aaron Williams. Aaron Williams played it for a little
minute. You missed Aaron
minute.
Ross, too.
Aaron Ross, I don't know if Aaron Ross played the nickel. I think he was always outside. I don't know if he played inside.
I think he did in the 2005 season.
I don't know. I got to go back and check. This is just the ones that I know played the nickel for a little while. He did put Earl Thomas there in the spring, but then he never put him there like in the actual game. So that's how you got to do it.
I think Earl turned out okay.
Huh? Yeah, no. But Earl could have played the nickel.
He could have.
No, Coach Aquino initially was putting him at the nickel. Like, you go back, and Coach Aquino was like,
he had the perfect skill set
to play him at the nickel. And then he put him at safety, and that discussion was pretty much over. Yeah. He was just so instinctual. Covered so much space and could do so much damage. He could do so much more damage at safety.
That's one thing. Whatever level, high school, college, you don't hear about as much in the NFL because guys have set positions. But when you hear a coach say, I would love to have him at this certain position, but he's so valuable to us here, we can't afford to move him. That's
I know that guy is in the 2019 class. It's Jordan Whittington. He's that guy.
Yeah.
Because he, you know what I mean? You think like, man, you could put, they got him at running back right now, right? Because we need him there.
Yeah.
But at slot, where he could motion back into the backfield if you need him and do different things, that's where he really belongs.
And Tom Herman even
said
this week, like, he was asked how much, H is Jordan Whittington working. Not much, because you need all hands on deck at running back.
You need him at running back so bad. I would doubt by the end of the season it's just him and Keontae getting 80% of the carries.
But even right now, like, you think about the workload. I think we talked about this last week. Back in camp, they had 7 running backs on scholarship.
Yeah.
7.
They just had one leave, right?
Well, Kyle Porter's been in the transfer portal, hadn't been with the team.
But now it's official.
He's going to U of H, right?
He's going to U of H.
But, Rod, if you're the 5th running back, 6th, 7th, how the hell are you getting any work? You're not.
It's easy to recruit that position right now. That's a good thing for Texas, because they don't have but 2 guys that, in my opinion, that are qualified. But I will say this. I was saying 2 years ago it was the weakest position in terms of overall talent on the team, and I said that back-to-back years. That is no longer the case. Like, I don't know if it's I don't know. But I'm just saying I don't know. It may still be the weakest position. I don't know. Because now they've upgraded with Keontae Ingram and with Jordan Whittington back-to-back years. You've added tremendous talent there.
It's much better than what you've had.
What I mean? So
since
I can't say it as cavalier, you know what I mean? And it's
think about it from this standpoint, though. Let's say the 2 most questionable positions on this roster. No, okay, let's go 3.
Linebacker.
Let's go 3, right?
Okay.
Running back, tight end, linebacker.
I like tight end.
Well, okay, but hear me out, because we really don't know what you've really got with.
I agree with that. We don't
but think about this: those are your 3 questionable positions right now. But look at your top 2 guys at running back. You got Keontae Ingram, who's in the top 10 in school history for rushing yards as a freshman, averaged 5 yards a carry last year. Jordan Whittington, who we all saw what he's capable of at the high school level.
Yeah.
I think you're much better off than you were a couple years ago having those 2 guys right at the top of your depth chart, as you said. Tight end, it's just, okay, can these guys take this talent and turn it into production? Cade Brewer, Reese Lato, even Jared Wiley, who's had a really good spring so far. And then at linebacker, I don't think it's a physicality question. It's a talent question with Jeff McCulloch or Delia Dayaway. I know DeGabriel Floyd's on the shelf with the neck deal, and that's a whole different ballgame, and we'll see what happens. But at least you've got talent there. At least you've got bodies there that you think can play. It's not like, there's been times, Rod, where we looked at this depth chart and looked for guys to fill that out and go, man, I hope that guy can play.
Is DeGabriel Floyd a middle? What is he playing?
He can play either or, Mac or Rover.
He can play Mac or Rover. Okay, they got him playing Mac now? Like, who's,
Well, he's not clear for contact right now, though.
Okay.
Because of the neck
injury. Okay.
But you've got Jeffrey McCulloch at Rover, Delia Day away
I
at
just think
Mac.
they're more. That's a good point. No, yeah, but that's more like tight end though, right?
Yeah.
In terms of there is talent, but we have no idea if they're going to meet expectations.
You don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah. Okay, so I agree with you on that. That's a good point. There is talent now at linebacker, no doubt.
From that standpoint, Rod, running back might have moved up the pecking order because at least you know what you got with Keontae Ingram.
And I love Jordan Whittington. Who doesn't?
And honestly, you probably know what you got with Danny Young, who Danny Young's not going to be a first-team all-conference type guy, but you could do a lot worse for a number 3 running back.
No, they've done. I would say Tom Herman does a great job of. Think about the 2 years. We were talking about an offensive identity crisis 2 or 3 years ago, and every position has received significant upgrades. Either they be, for the time being, for the short term, meaning I got to get a graduate transfer in here because Trey Watson. That's why we forgot about running back too, because Trey Watson was great last year.
Yeah.
I'm talking about a guy who came in and gave you much needed depth and production there. He was awesome.
That's where that grad transfer running back market can always be big every year.
You got almost 1,000 yards from scrimmage from Trey Watson. I think it was like 929.
Come on, man. And so that was a short-term solution. Keontae Ingram is a long-term solution, and so is Jordan Whittington. So I just like their approach to everything. Tight end was kind of like that, too. Look what Andrew Beck did, maximized Andrew Beck, and now we got the young guys coming in the pipeline. Offensive line, of course, gets the same treatment year after year, right? You get your graduate transfers in, but still building through the pipeline. So I just love the way they address the issues. And wide receiver, that's enough said about wide receiver. I don't need to say anything.
And offensive line, will throw them in there too, Rod, from looking at them this spring. That's a group that, these guys look talented. I don't know what it's going to look like, whatever that starting 5 looks like when they step on the field against Louisiana Tech. I don't know what it's going to look like.
We know more about them, though, right?
Because we've seen Kerstetter, we've seen Okafor in games.
Shackelford, and Parker Braun coming in is a proven commodity outside of the Big 12, but.
No, he's a proven commodity. You can say it. He's a proven commodity.
So compared to previous years. Yeah. So previous years, we've had a ton of questions.
We know more about the offensive line this year than we know.
It's better than it's been.
No disrespect to Calvin Anderson, but we were hyped about Calvin Anderson. He was a honorable mention All-Conference USA guy. Parker Braun's a 2-time first-team All-ACC guy.
All-ACC.
Yeah.
Yeah. A line of scrimmage league.
And, you've had coaches be like, no, he won them games.
No, he was pancaking my top defensive lineman. Like, that dude's a grown man. He's a mauler.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I think I like the way the offensive line's going, and I trust Herb Hand. There's a lot of Herb Hand trust there because he's earned it, too.
Right.
You know what I mean? I like what he's going to do. I feel like he will address if there's an issue with, figuring out who the right tackle is, or if Kerstetter's not, doing what he wants at guard. I think he'll figure it out.
But again, we're not talking about a team that lacks talented depth. Like, we're starting to see talented depth at just about every position on the roster.
I agree.
Which there were times under Mac and times under Charlie and even Herman's first year we couldn't say that.
No.
Yeah, no,
it's
I'm with you.
Like the offensive line Herman's first year, especially when Connor Williams won, it's like, damn, who are the 5 healthy guys they could put out there? Run out there this week. I remember one game, I forgot what game it was. Jake McMillan's playing like with a club on his hand because he had a broken hand, but they didn't have anybody else.
They didn't have anybody. No, I remember
when we got a red shirt. Like, no, we have nobody else.
Early on in Charlie's saying this is a testament to Herb Hand again and Tom Herman. Man, when Dom Espinosa goes down, and and then of course David Ash went down too. I mean that was it. That was the season. It was done.
That season was done. Yeah, that first game.
It was over. Texas lost their starting center early on last year, and it didn't completely implode the offensive line. Right. That's a testament to Herb Hand. And, you end up having your quarterback go down in 2 games, and that still did not implode your season. You still got to the Big 12 championship and still, showed out in the Sugar Bowl. So, I like the fact that they address the contingency plan too. Like, man, what if this happens?
That's what I love about Tom Herman.
What if this guy goes down, man? What we gonna do?
Those are the small details that prepared.
You can tell he sits around there. He sits around the table and goes, well, what happens if that guy gets hurt? The Casey Thompson story that he's like, Casey Thompson, we need him to get first-team reps. We need him to get first team reps. Yeah, because look at Texas. They've used a second quarterback, or at least two quarterbacks, every year since Garrett Gilbert?
So has Tom Herman.
And so is Tom Herman. He's like, no, I need that guy to be ready. That guy will play. I don't know how he's going to play. I can't predict it, but trust me, we're going to be like, holy Chicago, he's got to play.
And that's the person that is so focused on, and it's a thing that you see more and more in football, like you're just focused on situational football. And the idea that is just an example of situational football. Now, it's not a 3rd and 3 situation, or it's not a blitz situation. It's a what if this happens injury, and you still have to have something. And then if you have that and have that type of depth, like you said, it can be that first time whenever you have a plan and actually have the talented depth to not have a massive drop-off if crap hits the fan.
Right. Yeah. I think that we don't have time to get into it this week, but, Rod, I think that's another reason for bringing in Larry Fedora as an analyst and bringing in a guy like Andre Coleman, because Tom Herman,
in case something happens,
Well, Tom Herman has to look at this program and say, look, I can't be so consumed with, okay, what are we going to call if we get in this situation in the red zone?
Yeah.
I've got to be thinking about personnel and making sure I'm meeting with as many people in this organization as possible to make sure we have everything.
That's his man behind the
You know, it's
all the bolts are tightened, make sure everything.
It's kind of the new age,
in the booth,
the new age CEO type coach. Like we used to call Mac Brown a CEO type coach. Well, you handle this and you're delegating, but no, now you have to have your hand. You have to be a game planner. You have to be a salesman. You have to be a personnel
call
guy.
The plays if you need to.
You have to be a play caller. You have to be involved in so many aspects of it.
Yeah, those analysts are huge.
Put on any hat at any time and say, all right, I'll do this. If we can't do it, I'll do it. Then I'll figure out who to hire for it later. But I agree. That's why he likes Fedora, because I do think he's grooming Fedora. If, like, hey, man, down the line, if I really like your ideas and the tasks that I give you, if I give you, hey, I need 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 plays. You know what I mean? That's what I need. I need 5 of each. I need to be creative, and I need them to be really, really, like, specific and isolated on who he attack. You know what I mean? You give him stuff like that. I need them RPO specific, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And he comes back with really cool stuff, and he goes, man, Larry Fedora can take us to the next level within the scheme, within parameters of my scheme. He's my guy to call the plays because, like you said, he doesn't need to be calling plays because he is that guy that wants to have his hand in everything and checking on everything. Just calling the plays makes you ask Lincoln Riley. It's hard to focus on the defensive side of the ball when your focus control is creative on offense. It's hard to do that.
And he's out of where his norm was, all the way from a grad assistant up to calling plays. He had been in the booth and be able to be that type of guy that have everything at his disposal, like you have with your notes here. And now you're sitting around,
chaos.
Now you got a headset and players and everything going in his, and like literally
just throw that stuff down. That's why I think he's so amped up sometimes because he doesn't like. He's too passionate.
He has to do this, and my mind's going crazy. About
he's too passionate to be down there on the field and calling plays. That's why he doesn't like it. He likes, like Matt says, to be up there in the booth. And then I'm controlled environment. I don't have to worry about getting sucked into the passion.
And that's what he was, because there's so much going through your head. And first time when you have
your play sheet, you got your highlighters out. Maybe you got a nice spittoon and a Diet Coke right there.
You got your analysts over here. You're like, hey man, you know how many times we've been in 4th and whatever. You know what I mean? Like all that kind of stuff.
Well,
you
Travis, you like my line about the spittoon? I heard Travis laugh over there.
That's every single coach.
How many times you see a game camera pan to the press box? The coach either has a spit cup next to him or is caught like in the middle of the act.
Just couldn't have that. Oh, cameras on your coach. Yeah, they probably got cameras on your coach. Coach, cameras on your coach. Okay.
When you said analyst, it reminded me of maybe one of the funniest. I'm just infatuated with Ed Orgeron because he's like a swamp monster himself. But one of the funniest things that he said all last season, it was like an interview after a big win. And they asked, what was the key tonight? He's like, this amazing work by our analysts. Nobody can even imagine what they're doing. And it just
like
coming
Japanese,
from us.
Is that Orgeron?
No, but you never heard his guttural voice. Just a horrible impersonation. But yeah, Ed Orgeron's funny on so many levels. But when he is talking about the amazing work of analysts blowing his mind, it was like, all right.
They're probably like, Coach, you're gaining 6 yards per play when you run this play, and you've only run it 3 times.
It was like blowing his mind. Like, he had never.
We should run this play every time. Like I think, old school guys like that.
Those type of things are perfect. You know,
that's why I think at Tom Herman
it's a great marriage.
That's why I think ultimately he gives up that responsibility. Yeah. I think Larry Fedora is the one he is grooming for it.
And we talk about a coach that likes to have or needs to have his hand in as many pots. There's a reason why Tom Herman still coaches the punt team.
That's exactly right. Yeah, exactly. Because he's like, oh, nah, that's important. You don't know. It's really important. The stats that I have say that if the Gunners are fast, you know what I mean? He's one of those guys, which is kind of, I like that. Those are Belichickian. That's Saban-like. That's what those guys do. They really are. Saban is in everything. Like, I love Coach Brown, but Coach Brown never corrected my back pedal or my, you know what I mean, my posture or, you know, my
every
my pad
details
level.
are involved.
He never said anything. It was always like, it was Jason Garrett.
Yep.
Keep it going. You know what I mean? Good job. Let's go. Let's go,
Let's go,
good
guys.
energy. I mean, which was great, but he's not telling you exactly specifically how to get
writing down on the little folded up piece of paper that looks like this one I
Mac
got
is
right
not
here.
on the dry erase board. That's not what he's going to do. That's not his talent, though.
And those modern coaches, they're just literally every detail about every aspect you have to be on top of.
I really want to know what Mac was writing on that folded up piece of paper.
Oh, man, those would be great. He should write a book. It's
like in Lebowski when he goes and looks at it. And it's
but
just
it's all of his writings. And so it's probably just, I don't know what it is.
Like, if you notice, like, Tom Herman, and this is random, like, he's got a manila folder, like, folded in half with notes in. That's where he takes his notes.
Oh, does he? Yeah. Well,
I don't know if he likes a harder surface to write on.
Well, you sweat through.
Like you say, you're doing so many things.
Matt, that's a great point.
No,
that I never
your
thought
paper.
of.
I've had many paperwork ruined by water. Then you got to have something contained.
That's a great point.
Yeah, but he's got to write it down because he does so many things. He could take out his phone and scribble it in there, but you know, just write it down. Like, oh, I need to correct that dude on his hand placement on that punt play. Like he's one of those guys. So he's like, oh, I gotta write that down. I'm gonna forget that when I go talk to him.
Matt's the reasoning for why the manila folder is the tool of choice. I'm blown away. I have not thought of that. And it makes total sense because you know how many camps I've covered where I've had like a roster sheet like in my back pocket and then sweat through a pair of shorts.
Sweat straight through it.
It's all just gross and nasty at the end of the day.
Does he tuck it back in his crotch though? Is that where he tucks stuff?
Well, that's why he has the manila folder.
Stuff in their crotches and in their butts.
Yeah, butts are offensive line coaches.
So that's why your stuff is getting. At the camps, everyone's like, take it out of their butt. Like, dude, do not hand me your butt paper. I do not want the roster that you have out of your butt.
Somebody on the beat that's listening to this can correct me. I think Tom Herman. Some coaches do like the front tuck. I think Tom Herman goes like in the back of the waistband of the shorts.
He goes so.
Or maybe some of those Nike shorts they wear, or the Jordan brand shorts, or whatever. Some of them have pockets on them, so you stick it in the pocket.
Okay, yeah.
It's funny you brought up Nike. I was looking, and it took me an hour to notice this, but looking over, you're wearing the only human I've ever seen in a Tiger Woods Sunday shirt.
I am wearing my Tiger Woods Sunday shirt.
Tiger Woods, yeah, it's quite fitting. I didn't even notice till now. I've never seen a human in another Tiger red Sunday shirt, and that's awesome.
Yeah, love it, brother.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week's show. Matt, thanks for everything, man.
You're more than welcome.
Rod B, appreciate the time and the knowledge.
Anytime, brother.
For Matt, for Rod, for Travis, the best damn videographer in the podcast game, for everybody at the Austin Radio Network and the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260, streaming on the Horn app and at hornfm.com, where you can get Rod on the Rodcast each and every weekday from 1 to 3.
Shameless plug.
And thanks to Matt, you can get this podcast where you can find all your 24/7 sports podcasts on Megaphone. Get us anywhere you get your podcasts. And Matt always has our archives running on the Longhorn Blitz SoundCloud page.
Yep, just type in Longhorn Blitz.
For the Horn family, for the Horns 24/7 family, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for downloading and listening, and we will catch you again on the next episode.
You've been listening to Longhorn Blitz with Horns247.com. Remember, for the latest Longhorn news 24/7, visit Horns247.com.